what's up, people? Welcome back to T's Time. I'm TJ. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we continue where we left off last time. We did propane lines. Today, I'm going to put in these access panels on both sides of the van. One to fill the propane tank, and then the other one to fill the water tanks. Soon to come. That's what that stuff is. But today, I want to focus on getting these panels installed, and I can actually do a pressure test. And excuse the mess in the background. There's a purpose, there's a reason for that. We're getting close to the end where it's just shuffling stuff out of the way, and majority of all the woodworking is done and paint is coming. But I do have a gauge somewhere, this right here. This right here, we could put this in line of the propane lines. I could use a bicycle pump, add some air to this, check for leaks. So that way we'll know like at least the bottom portion of propane lines, they're sealed, they're correct, they're not leaking. And we could do that because on each of the stub outs that I have for the stove and the hot water heater, there's cutoffs on them. So we're gonna cut those off, tighten everything up, put this on, we're gonna pump it full of air, and we're gonna see if we have any leaks, and hopefully we don't. So that way, if we don't, we'll be good, and we'll be able to actually just whenever I get my appliances, get those lines installed and worry about leaks on this side. And with that, you could do like with leak detectors, just spray to see if you see any bubbles. The correct way is to throw a gauge back in and do it again that way. But I just want to make sure the bottom is done because I'm getting tired of crawling on the ground. Going through a lot of shirts, but definitely wear something you don't mind throwing away, especially when you're working on projects like this. It's always best practice if it's expendable or disposable. Use that stuff. But we're gonna get into what we need to do today. We need to measure, then cut, drill, jigsaw, drill bits, tape measure, masking tape, a straight edge. We're gonna draw our patterns on first, what we need to cut out, and then we're gonna do a drill hole so we get the jigsaw inside the hole to cut what we need to cut. Get that on, get those installed, and then we'll have access to both propane and then our fill setup. And the fill setup will come with that stuff. Propane tanks are in the bags, heating pads, those need to be installed, those need to be wired. We need to mount that, but that will be the, let's say the next video, that will be that stuff. But today we just want to get the holes cut. We're going to check for our leak in our propane lines, make sure that that stuff is good, and we'll be one step ahead. So let's go. All right, so the purpose of that is something to draw on. I'm gonna use a permanent marker to draw my cut, and then also when I have the jigsaw going, it doesn't mark up the surface of the van. Even though the surface of the van needs a little love, still thinking on that, whether it's gonna be paint or a wrap, I don't know. But like at least this gives me something to like work with so I could draw on it, because this is easier to remove than permanent marker. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and we're gonna get everything measured and lined up to exactly where we want to cut it. With this, for the fill size, just need to be mindful of the tank's height is 14. So for the fill, you need to make sure the fill is about 14 or higher, so that way we'll be able to actually fill our tanks all the way up. So you just have to take that into consideration. And on the other side, just have to be mindful of the fill valve on the propane tank to make sure we can get that valve in there, get that tightened on, and get that stuff filled. So those are the things I'd have to be mindful of, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get everything taped up, measured up, and I'll show you my measurements, and we'll get the holes cut. And then you just have to be actually a little bit precise with your measurements for the holes on the back of this, so you still have enough meat, meaning material for the screws to go into, so that way it doesn't just fall out, it's not glued on, it's actually like screwed and mounted on. But I'm thinking something like so is where this will live, like that. I'm going to try to get as high as possible. Just have to be mindful on the underside of like all the reinforced ribs and stuff on that's like right here, so I have to take that into consideration. But just be mindful before you cut. Just double check your measurements, double check, and make sure you're not going to drill into anything or cut through anything. Like we got propane lines on the other side, we got to make sure we push that stuff out the way. We got water lines on the other side of this, that we got to make sure we push that out the way. But let me get this going, get this drawn. Yeah, drawn, scribed, written up. Yeah, let me create a box. But yeah. All right, so that's one door in. I still got to do the holes, of course. I got to drill for those, but I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And then yeah, so I'm gonna do the same exact thing for the other side. So like what I was worrying about was making sure that this was 14 inches exact or about as high, because that's as high as the tank is. So that should be good. And then just mount this here. I don't need to use like butyl tape or any silicone on the other side, because it doesn't need to be sealed. It's not like space behind it that I don't mind getting wet, because it's the underside of the vehicle, so it's gonna get wet anyway. But like the same principle applies to the other side. So I'm gonna get that installed, get that cut, and then we could get that we could do a leak test on the lines that we have for the propane at the bottom, so I can actually finish mounting those lines to the chassis. So that side should be done, will be done. I have to get the tank purged and filled eventually, but at least knowing the bottom's leak proof, well, like things happen, but it's not leaking, will make it easier for when I go do my install on top, so I don't have to worry about the stuff on the bottom. It's just doing like a step-by-step checklist to make sure everything is good, checks and balance. But let me get the other side installed, and I'll show you the other side, and we're gonna get the leak test going. So yeah. All right, so I was planning on doing a leak test. This is the leak gauge that I have. It does not fit. Yeah, so that's not happening today, but we do have our doors installed. This is my double stage regulator. The copper line I took out of the way when I was cutting through the van. So I'm gonna go get that stuff thrown back on, and then I'll show you the doors I have on there. So now we have access. I can actually get my propane tank filled, and then I can worry about the leak test at a later date. But definitely I'm not gonna skip the leak test. We're gonna make sure we get that done. It's just not happening today because I don't have the correct size fittings to get that done. But we don't got gas in it anyway, so it doesn't really matter today. But let me get the lines put back on, then I'll show you my access doors, and then we're finishing the puzzle. All these little pieces are coming together, but let me get that thrown on, get that stuff tightened, and we'll close out this video. Yeah, so stay tuned. And bada boom, bada bang, doors are installed. We got flaps and all that. But this right here, this door is for our water. This is where I'll actually be able to fill, like put water in to go to the fresh water tank. And this would be for a hose or like a garden hose. And that little fitting you see right there is just for the vent. But if you do ever connect like a garden hose to this, so you have a water supply, like your city water, this folds back out of the way. You put that in, connects your hose. All right, so this flap comes up, you connect your garden hose right there, put that through, then you'll be able to close it, and then you'll be able to actually even lock it. So that way nobody could come and disconnect that without breaking the door. And then when not in use, close the door, close the flap, and that's that. Now let's go check out the other side. All right, install was fairly simple. Just measure, just take your times. I'm just happy I got all the cuts done on the first time. I didn't have to like shave them down to make them fit. And this is the most important door for our propane LP. So I can actually fill that yellow, that's the fill. You have your gauge, you have your knobs to turn it on and off, regulator. Everything is tightened up. We still have to do our leak test. That will come at a different time or date. I don't even know if I'll record that. But everything is tight on the bottom so far for the propane. So I'm just happy for that. And the doors are a success. I've had the doors for a while. I don't know why it took me so long to install, but like today, or even like all these, the last couple of videos have been in 1 week. I've had like a week to just get caught up on stuff and just make it happen. Yeah, so I just thought let's call this a difficult week. Do the difficult things, or the things that I thought were going to be difficult, challenge myself. So this is done. I'm trying to get the water tanks next video. I'm thinking. So if you see them, cool, I was right. If not, that's life. But that's all I have for this video. I just wanted to get the doors in, because like once the doors are in, I can start even like connecting the dots with the water tanks, because I need that door on the other side installed, just so I could do the water tanks, connect everything to those. So that's part of the process of the water tanks. I keep looking over to the water tanks. The water tanks, they're back there at the table staring at me. I need to get those situated. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, asking questions. If you had comments, I appreciate if you left those. So until next Wednesday, even if you don't have gas, you have to find a way to push yourself and motivate yourself to keep going. So hopefully it's not an uphill battle, but make it happen. Peace, TJ.